Okay, so let's move on to the seven trumpets, which is the seventh seal, as we will see. And this is in Revelation chapter 8 and 9. Okay, now just looking straight away at the seventh seal, then we see a statement that as soon as the seventh seal is opened, then I saw seven angels who were given seven trumpets. Okay, so the seventh seal is seven trumpets. Let's visualize this. We've got the seven seals laid out, and then we have this fact that this seventh seal is the seven trumpets. Okay, so it's not exactly consecutive, as in you've got the seals, then the trumpets, then the bowls. It's that you've got the seal is still ongoing. Okay, the seal is not over. This is the beginning of the seventh seal, which we will see through the seven trumpets. And I want to emphasize that because you need to understand that, in fact, the seal is not finished with, it's just beginning. So let's look on. We've got the seven trumpets, and when we actually get this, we find out that at the seventh seal we have noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. Now this is a significant benchmark. We also see that at the seventh trumpet and at the seventh bowl. Noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. And this is very interesting because this is one of the things that backs up the idea that actually the seventh seal, the seventh trumpet, and the seventh bowl all happen at the same time. And this is why I emphasize that the seventh seal is the seven trumpets, because you need to understand that something that happens at the last bowl is happening at the last trumpet and is happening at the last seal. All too often people see something at the seventh bowl and they think that the seventh seal is long past. No, the seventh seal is still ongoing. And when you're in the trumpet, you're still in the seventh seal. And there's this big overlap, and I think that's very hard to understand, but I hope to visualize it more as we go on. So we see here that there is an earthquake. Matthew 24 verse 6 warned about earthquakes. Okay, so I think Matthew 24 verse 6 is a summary of the whole apocalypse. Okay, it's not just one earthquake, which we saw in the sixth seal. Now we have another earthquake, and so therefore the fact that Jesus said earthquakes shows that he was talking about the whole process of the apocalypse. Okay, let's have a look at the first angel. First angel, it says that there's hail and fire, and a third of the trees and grass are burned up. Okay, the second angel, there's a mountain that goes into the sea, burning with fire. Some people have speculated this is some kind of asteroid or meteorite or something like that, some lump of rock that's being thrown from space. Quite possible, not quite sure. But a third of the sea turns to blood, and a third of sea life and ships are destroyed. Okay, they're not completely wiped out, but it's still pretty cataclysmic, I would say. The third angel sounds, and a star falls from heaven. Now this is interesting because elsewhere stars appear to be angels. Okay, and this one has a name. It's called wormwood, and it makes all the water go bitter, or a third of the water go bitter, and it actually brings death to many people. Now we don't know if this is actually a star falling from heaven. That would actually mean a lump of burning gas like the sun. Pretty difficult to see that happening, but anything's possible with God. The other possibility is that actually it's some kind of angel that goes out and poisons the waters. We don't know. The fourth angel, it says that a third of the sun is struck and a third of the moon. Now this is strange because in the sixth seal it said that the sun had gone dark. Does that mean that the sixth seal was only temporary? It went dark for a short time and then it came back on again? Or, as some people think, this actually, when the sixth seal described the moon and the sun changing, it was actually heralding what would happen during the trumpets. This is where, we have to think about things overlapping, but then it gets very, very jumbled. We're not quite sure. It doesn't really matter in that sense. The point is that we're looking for these signs and we see these things. The other possibility, actually, this is pure speculation, is that when the mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, that actually it hit the earth at a certain angle to make it spin faster, and that would mean that actually your days would be shorter and your nights would be shorter. Okay, because the earth is spinning, it takes 24 hours to spin around. If it was hit with such force that in fact somehow or other it started to spin faster, and it only took, you know, sort of 18 hours to spin, then you would lose a third of the day and a third of the night. And you know, it's quite an interesting thought to consider that that might be a possibility. I should have said 16 hours. Okay. We move on. Then it says that there are three woes, which are the next trumpets. Trumpets 5, 6 and 7 are described as the three woes. That's the three curses. So it seems that they're getting more and more intense as we go on. Okay. Now we're just trying to summarize the main events. Okay, so just go through that yourself and work it out before you go on to the fifth seal. Okay, I would suggest that you pause the video and actually go through that yourself. When the fifth angel sounded, it says, I saw a star falling from heaven to earth. To him was given the key to the bottomless pit. Again, just like the other one, the wormwood in the third trumpet, you know, it seems to be actually a personal angel who was given a key. Okay, so he does these things. What's interesting is what actually happens is that we have locusts who come out who are like scorpions. Okay, now again, it's very interesting the details which are stressed. First of all, they're told that they can harm certain things, but they are not to touch those who have the seal of God. Okay, so this is only for unbelievers. That means as I sit here, if I'm a Christian, my neighbours are not Christians, these locust scorpions would come over and I'd be able to sit there and watch them suffer. Okay, now the chances are, actually being a Christian, of course, I jump over and I try and help them and beat the things off, but nevertheless they won't touch me because I'm a believer. Okay, you do not have to fear the wrath of God. People read the book of Revelation and say, oh, it's scary. Not if you're a Christian. Tribulation, okay, that's going to be scary, but keep your faith in God. But the wrath of God does not hold any fear for those who are Christians. It will do for your unsaved relatives, and so that may fill you with fear because you don't want your unsaved relatives to suffer, but all the more reason to preach the gospel to them. That's what I'd say. Okay, it's just like Exodus 12. Again, the Passover, those who were covered by the blood, the plague just passed over them. And in Revelation 7 verse 3 we saw how those from Israel were sealed. And of course in 2 Corinthians 1 you also read about the fact that we are sealed. Okay, so we're safe, we're marked. It's not something you can see, it's a spiritual thing, but you know, God knows those who are his. Alright. There's an interesting little detail here. It says that they were given power to hurt for 5 months. Gives us an idea maybe of the time scale that we might be looking at. Okay, it's only vague. It doesn't tell us if these things overlap or if they run back to back or if they all happen at the same time, but we see here that this plague goes on for 5 months. Okay, there are lots of other details in there that I could pick out, but there's no reason, by the way, not to take this literally. Some people have tried to liken these things and they've said, oh yeah, they'll be like helicopters, army helicopters. There's no inference in this that it's anything like that. I don't think that John was seeing something from the future and just tried to explain it in his terms. There's no reason to suppose that these are not literal creatures. Either God creates them, or they are the result. I mean, people have speculated that they're the result of some kind of horrible genetic mutation, and or even a human experiment in a laboratory to make some kind of bioweapon. All of that speculation. It doesn't really matter. What matters is you see it and you understand that it's not going to touch those who are believers. Keep the faith, okay, and keep praying for the people who are not saved, that they might actually see these things and come to repentance.